Today's class is called Mobilize Your Thoracic Spine. Our thoracic spine is the mid-upper part of our back where our rib cage is, and it's really responsible for how big we can breathe. So if you think about that 360 breath, we want to be able to expand side to side and front to back. So the more we mobilize our spine by moving it in all those different directions, the more we'll be able to take that big full breath. So today we're going to be flexing the spine, extending the thoracic spine, lateral moving or side bending, and rotating. So we're going to try to move our thoracic spine in all different ways today so that we'll be able to take those big 360 breaths, and it will also help to open the front of the chest. So if you lose a lot of that mobility around the rib cage, you might feel really tight in the front of the shoulders and chest. So we will be doing some things, the back of the thoracic spine and the front as well. We're gonna get started in bridge pose. So go ahead and come onto your back. And as always, we'll check in with our triple S. So that's the back of the skull on the mat, the shoulder blades or scapula, which are part of the thoracic spine, and our sacrum right above the tailbone. As we lift for bridge, tuck your tailbone under, almost like you're doing a pelvic tilt backwards. Squeeze your glutes to lift your hips. We're gonna stay really low in our bridge. We wanna make sure we're not tipping forward, arching the back, or rounding the low back. So low back should feel nice and long. Imagine those two pelvic points drawing in toward each other. So we've got this nice neutral pelvis, a neutral spine, neutral neck, squeezing the glutes. You're going to extend your wrists, bringing the palms up almost at a diagonal. So just kind of going right on top of where the knees are. And we're going to hold our bridge and protract our shoulder blades, which means we're going to try to move our shoulder blades away from the spine, really reaching those palms forward, and then settle the shoulder blades back onto the mat or to the ground. So we're just going to do that a few times. We press the palms forward, protracting our shoulder blades, but really hold that neutral pelvis. So we're also working the glutes, starting to get some tone in the abdominals to hold this neutral pelvis as we start to mobilize our shoulder blades, our scapula. Lower the hands back to the sides of your body. Slowly lower the upper back, middle back, lower back down. Once the sacrum comes down, interlace your hands behind your head. Draw your elbows in towards your face. Now again, check that the sacrum is down and we're not tipping the pelvis forward, which leads to that arch in the low back. Big inhale here. Exhale, curl up off your scapula, your shoulder blades. Tuck your chin towards your throat. Look at those pelvic points. And just like bridge pose, imagine that those two pelvic points could draw in. And then think about knitting your front ribs together like you're tightening up a corset. Inhale to lower. Exhale, curl up off your shoulder blades. Make sure your sacrum right above the tailbone stays down. Draw those pelvic points in. Reach your right arm forward. The palm is going to face in, and we'll protract here. Same thing we did in bridge. Reach the shoulder blade away from the spine. Hand comes back behind the head. Inhale to lower. Exhale, lift up off your shoulder blades, chin towards your throat, just like bridge. Draw those pelvic points in, knit the front ribs in. Left arm extends up, palm faces in. Protract by reaching those fingertips up even more. Hand comes back behind the head, inhale to lower. Exhale, curl up off your shoulder blades, chin towards your throat. Look at your belly button now, and imagine that your belly button could draw down towards your sacrum. Right arm reaches forward, protract, scapula pulls away from the spine. Hand comes back behind the head, inhale to lower. Exhale, lift up off your shoulder blades, tuck your chin towards your throat, keep that neutral neck. Belly button starts to pull down, left arm reaches. Protract by reaching your fingertips even higher, keep pulling that belly button down. Hand comes back behind the head, inhale to lower. Release your arms down to your sides. We're going to make our way into quadruped, coming onto hands and knees. Shoulders will line up right over your wrist creases, hips right over your knees, moving through our cat-cow. So we've probably done cat-cow hundreds of times. Each part of our spine is moving. So our pelvis is tipping forward and back. Our lumbar spine, our low back is moving. Our thoracic spine, which we know is around our rib cage, and even our cervical spine up toward the neck is moving if you're moving the head. So we're getting this extension and flexion of the spine. So that's two directions that our spine moves. We also can rotate and laterally bend, so that's side to side movement. Come back to your neutral spine, lift your throat, tuck your toes, lift the pelvis up for down dog. So we really want to hike that pelvis up, keeping a bend in the knees. Walk the feet a little bit closer toward the hands, so we don't want to be too wide in our downward dog. We really want it to be pretty obvious that the pelvis is the highest point in our downward dog, and our front ribs are lifting up toward our back body. You can pedal the feet out if that feels good. Hands will walk back toward the feet, and we'll end up bending the knees quite a bit, coming into a happy squat. So we want to walk back so that the hip creases move back and our knees are right over the ankles. Spine is nice and long, so we're not rounding or collapsing the upper back. Keep that firmness in the glutes so that we can press into the feet and hinge back up. So we're going to keep the spine just as long as we rise to stand. Walk to the top of your mat. Check in with your mountain pose. Pelvic bowl is upright, so we don't want to tip the pelvis forward. We don't want to tip the pelvis backwards. Shoulders are going to stack right over the pelvis. Reach the arms forward and up. Lift your shoulder blades up toward the ears. That's called elevating the scapula. Exhale, hinge at the hips, just like that happy squat. Our knees are going to stay over the ankles and not go further than the toes. Step to plank pose. Lift your throat. Imagine that you had a broom behind your back. Would it touch the back of your skull, your shoulder blades, and your sacrum? So if you're dropping the head down, really think about pulling the throat up or lifting the skull. Lower your knees. Pause here. You can untuck the toes. Squeeze your glutes. We're going to lower down. Try not to let your pelvis touch first. So think about lowering in this long line with the broom behind your back. We'll bring the fingertips out wider than the mat. Coming onto our fingertips, elbows will point up. We're going to keep the head down so the neck stays neutral. Imagine lifting your belly button up as you draw the shoulder blades together and down the back. So our shoulder blades draw in, that's called retracting. And then we try to draw them down, that's called depression. So we're doing two things with our shoulder blades, which starts to get this stretch or openness in the front of the chest and shoulders. So we're working front and back body. Hands come under the shoulders. Lift back to quadruped. Getting ready for a low lunge. Right foot will step through the hands. Left knee stays down. We're in a 90-90 lunge. So our knees are right over our ankles and our hips are over our knees. Lift up. Check that pelvic bowl here. Make sure we're not tipping forward, tipping backwards. Think about that broom behind your back. Reach your arms up. Squeeze your left glute so that you can really stretch the front of your left hip. We're going to take this right arm and swing it down and back. A little bit of rotation in the thoracic spine, and then back up. Swing this right arm down and back. Back up. You can do this at any pace you want. It's going to be a little bit more challenging the faster you go because you'll have a little bit more momentum in the arm, and it will be a little bit trickier to hold that neutral pelvis. So just move at whatever pace feels good, adding a little bit of that rotation for the thoracic spine. Good. Pause with the arms up. We're going to do the left arm now. So keep squeezing that left glute. Left arm reaches down and back. So again, do this as slowly or as quickly as you'd like. Keep that feeling of drawing those two pelvic points in. So the only thing that's moving is the rib cage and that left shoulder, left arm. back up. Lower your hands down. We're gonna scoot this left knee in a little bit closer toward the left hand. Kick the left foot out to the side to give yourself a kickstand. So balancing will be a little bit better here as you step this right foot back. Modified side plank. Check that that left shoulder is directly over that left wrist crease and really squeeze that shoulder blade in. So our scapula is really holding us in place here. Left ear can release to the shoulder. Find that neutral pelvis. Think about drawing those pelvic points in, zippering up from your pubic bone all the way to the sternum. Right arm will reach up, and we'll backstroke this right arm. So we might be getting a little bit of a side bend type of stretch here as we move that right shoulder, right scapula. Lower that right hand back to quadruped, right knee comes back to quadruped. Stretch it out with one cat-cow. And then we'll step the left foot through, low lunge. Lift up, check that pelvic bowl, make sure it's not spilling forward or back. Shoulders over the pelvis, draw those pelvic points in and reach your arms up. Lift the shoulder blades up. We're gonna start with the left arm. Squeeze that right glute, swing that left arm down and back. So we're doing the same arm as the leg that's in front of the lunge. Adding a little bit of that thoracic rotation to the left. Keeping some tone in the glutes and the abdominals so the pelvis doesn't move. Come back up. Now we'll do the right arm. So this right arm will swing down and back. Keep squeezing that right glute. So we're trying not to have any movement in the legs or the pelvis. So to do that, we really have to keep the glutes on, keep the core active. Come back up, lower both hands. Right knee will scoot closer to the right hand. Kick it out to the side to give yourself a kickstand as our left foot steps back. Modified side plank. Check that right shoulder. Make sure it's over the wrist crease. Squeeze this right shoulder blade in toward the spine, kind of like that wide fingertip cobra feeling. Right ear releases. Glutes are active. Drawing those pelvic points in. Left arm reaches up. Backstroke this left arm. Move as slowly as you'd like. Hold really strong in that right shoulder blade. Lower that left hand back to quadruped. Left knee comes back down. You can either stretch it out in cat-cow, you can take child's pose, or you can go to downward dog. If you're in down dog, lift your hip creases, lift your front ribs up toward the back of the body, and really check in with your breath wherever you end up. Bend your knees, walk your feet up towards your hands. Really bend your knees. We're always hinging in our forward folds. Press into your feet, use your glutes, rise to stand with that long spine. Reach your shoulder blades up. Exhale, hinge at the hips. Knees are right over the ankles. Step to plank pose. Lift your throat so the head isn't dropping down. Think about that broom behind your back. Zipper your pubic bone up towards your belly button. Lower your knees. You can untuck the toes. Think about that broom again. Make sure we're not dropping the head. Keep the glutes active as you lower down. Try not to let your shoulders roll forward as you lower. Wide fingertip cobra. Come to the top of your fingers. Draw the elbows up. Squeeze your shoulder blades together and down the back. Imagine that you could lift your belly button up and keep squeezing your glutes. Hands come under the shoulders. Lift back to quadruped. Right foot steps through. If you'd like, you can tuck the left toes. Lift up. And again, we're going to check that pelvic bowl. Draw those pelvic points in. Right hand will come to the sacrum, the back of the pelvis. Left arm will reach up. Imagine someone lifting you up by your left fingertips. We really want to reach that left shoulder blade up toward the ear. Squeeze that left glute and then keep this upright posture, side bend. So this is that lateral movement for the thoracic spine. We're side bending. Keep squeezing that left glute to stretch the front of the left hip. Relax your neck. Come back up. Lower your hands down, untuck those left toes. Right foot will step out to the side. Parallel that right foot so your toes point forward. If it needs to be further back for the foot to be parallel, move it wherever it needs to be. And check in with the levelness of the pelvis. So we want to make sure our right hip isn't higher than the left. Think about drawing those pelvic points in. Right arm reaches out. Now we're just going to move the thoracic spine. So just think about turning only your ribs 1 or 2 inches to the right. Don't let the pelvis move. Exhale, reach your right arm underneath you toward the left. You can stay here or bend that left elbow if it feels good to go lower. Inhale, press into that left hand. Rotate just the ribs to the right without turning the pelvis. Exhale, reach underneath you toward the left. Maybe bend the elbow. One more, rotate just the ribs to the right. Hold that neutral pelvis. Exhale, reach to the left. Plant that right hand down. Right knee steps back into quadruped, and we'll do that on the other side. Left foot steps through. Lift up, check that pelvic bowl, make sure it's not tipping. Really squeeze this right glute. Left hand will come to the back of the pelvis, the sacrum. Right arm reaches up. Lift that right shoulder blade up as high as you can while you continue to squeeze this right glute. Take this into a lateral bend, a side stretch over toward the left. Let the left ear release to the shoulder, relaxing the neck. So we're getting this nice stretch along the side of the body. Come back up, lower your hands down. Left foot steps out to the side. Parallel that left foot. Think about that broom behind your back. Without moving the pelvis side to side, reach that left arm out. Only rotate in the rib cage, so just the thoracic spine turns to the left. Exhale, reach this left arm to the right. Maybe bend that right elbow if you want to go lower. Inhale, turn your ribs 1 or 2 inches to the left without turning the pelvis. Exhale, reach to the right. Maybe bend that right elbow. One more, press into that right hand. Rotate your ribs 1 or 2 inches to the right. Draw those pelvic points in. Sorry, to the left. To the right. Press into that right hand one more time. Rotate your ribs 1 or 2 inches to the left. Draw those pelvic points in. Exhale, reach to the right. Lower as much as you want. Plant that left hand back down. Left knee steps back in. Same options. You can take cat-cow. You can go to child's pose or take downward dog. Wherever you end up, think about that 360 breath. Can you feel the ribs expand side to side, front to back? And just see how big you can make your breath right now. On your next exhale, bend your knees, walk your feet forward. Sit back into that hip hinge. Check that the knees are over the ankle. Think about the broom behind your back as you rise to stand. Reach those shoulder blades up. Release your arms down. Coming into a high lunge or a crescent lunge, we'll step the ball of our right foot back, bending both knees so we can hold that pelvic bowl upright. Think about that broom behind your back, touching the back of your skull, your scapula, and your sacrum, the back of your pelvis. We're going to reach the arms up and really lift the shoulder blades up toward the ears and then return them to where they were. So we're just going to work elevating our scapula. So that's the ability to lift our shoulder blades. So we're just going to lift and lower, but try not to have any movement anywhere else. So notice if the ribs or the thoracic spine is kind of popping. Keep that feeling of the broom behind your back and try to isolate this movement just in the shoulder blades, reaching up and down. Coming into a goalpost shape with our arms, we're going to bend the elbows out to the side. So our elbows are just coming right out in line from the shoulders. Think about drawing your shoulder blades together a little bit, so we just drag the forearms back, and even that might feel like a stretch for the front of the chest and shoulders. We're gonna keep this feeling in the shoulder blades and rotate our thoracic spine to the left, and then back through center, a little bit to the right, back to center. So our arms are staying really strong. We're not gonna let them flop. And our thoracic spine is just gonna rotate a little bit to the right and to the left. But again, try to have very little movement, if any, in the lower body. So our pelvis isn't turning, just our ribs side to side. So now we're working that thoracic rotation. Come back to center. You can release your arms. We're gonna turn toward the side of the mat, externally rotating the hips to whatever degree feels good, so that when you bend your knees and toes face the same direction. We can keep that upright pelvic bowl, and we can think about that broom behind our back. Arms are gonna come out to the sides with the palms forward. And we're gonna try to hold the pelvis still, which means we're not gonna let the pelvis move side to side, but we're gonna try to move the ribs side to side. So again, now we're doing some lateral movement, moving from side to side, just in the rib cage. So if your knees are moving, if anything's moving, maybe make the movement a little bit smaller. Scale back so that you can really just isolate our ribs doing the moving, side to side. Come back to center, palms can face down, and we'll take this left arm up and over toward the right, side bend, let the head relax. Back to center. Right arm comes up and over, side bend. Back to center, one more, side bend to the right, left arm comes up and over. Back to center, side bend to the left, right arm comes up and over. Back to center, straighten your legs, release your arms, step it back to the top of the mat. Other side, left ball of the foot steps back, bend both knees, so we're in that high lunge or crescent lunge, making sure we're not tipping forward. So think about shoulders stacking over the pelvis. Reach your arms up, keep those glutes and core nice and active as we elevate the shoulder blades. So reach those shoulder blades up and down, up and down. Keep doing that same movement. So our shoulder blades are moving, but we're trying not to move our ribs here. So you wanna make sure the ribs aren't doing the moving by popping in and out, kind of like when we did our core work. Think about lacing up a corset here near the ribs. Good, hold your lunge, goal post your arms. So again, elbows come out to the side without popping the ribs or tipping the pelvis. Draw those shoulder blades together a little bit so they're retracting just a little bit, enough that we've got some activity in the arms. And we'll rotate the thoracic spine to the right and the left. Again, move at any pace that feels right or feels good. Holding that position of the arms, so try not to relax anywhere. Everything's working. Come back to center, release your arms, turn to the side of your mat. Coming to that squat, make sure we're not tipping forward here. Tailbone grounds down, shoulders stack over the pelvis. Reach the arms out to the side. Without wiggling in the lower body, we're gonna try to just shift the ribs side to side. Good, if you notice anything else moving, make the movement a little bit smaller. Come back to center, palms can face down. Right arm stretches up and over, side bend toward the left. Keep the glutes on. Back to center. Side bend to the right, left arm comes up and over. Back to center. Side bend to the left. Back to center. Side bend to the right. Back to center. Straighten your legs, release your arms, step it back to the top of the mat. Warrior two now, we're gonna take our right foot and step it back. Check in with that pelvic bowl here. Think about that broom behind your back. We're gonna goal post the arms again. So that same position, a little bit of a retraction in the shoulder blades. You're gonna stay there, and I'm just gonna show you what our shoulder blades are gonna do. We're gonna hold our warrior two with the legs, squeeze your right shoulder blade in toward the spine, retracting it, come back to neutral, squeeze your left shoulder blade in, retracting it, back to neutral. So it's teeny tiny. You might not feel like yours are moving very much, that's okay. We're getting used to the feeling of paying a little bit more attention to parts of our body that we may not have. So it might take a while to feel like you've really got this movement, but just try your best. Make it as small as you need to. And again, we're gonna try to do this without any movement in the ribs. Reach the arms out. Let's take a little flow, reverse it. Release that right ear, big stretch into the left side of the thoracic spine. Back to warrior two. Forearm to your thigh, right arm up and over. Now feel a nice stretch for the right side of the thoracic spine. Back to warrior two, step it back to the front of your mat. Left foot steps back, warrior two. Check that pelvic bowl. Think about that broom touching the back of your skull, shoulder blades and sacrum. Goalpost your arms. Really think about zippering up from your pubic bone all the way to your sternum as we retract the left shoulder blade and the right shoulder blade. So again, move as slowly as you need. You can even use that brain-body connection. Give yourself a little help. Think right shoulder blade, left shoulder blade. Good. Keep the glutes nice and strong. Reach the arms back out. Reverse it. Left arm down, right arm comes up and over. Big stretch for the right side of your thoracic spine. Warrior two. Variation, forearm to your thigh, left arm comes up and over. Squeeze this left glute. Back to warrior two. Step back to the top of your mat. For our balance today, we're gonna take tree pose with that goalpost shape. So let's set up for our tree pose. Check that pelvic bowl. We're gonna start by flexing the right hip. Squeeze that left glute. Externally rotate the right hip without turning the whole pelvis. Plant your right foot wherever it lands for tree. You can stay on the ground, on the leg, on the thigh, but really keep squeezing this left glute, drawing those pelvic points in. Let's come back to that goalpost shape. So we don't want to just hang here. We want to have that activity in the arms. Start to draw the shoulder blades back just a little bit. And again, make sure that doesn't pop the ribs. Think about knitting those front ribs in. So just by drawing our shoulder blades back, if we can keep this knitted in feeling of the thoracic spine and the ribs in particular, we're gonna get a stretch even along the front side of the chest, front side of the shoulders, just by drawing our shoulder blades together. Try not to let the head drop, pull the throat back. Release it down, shake out that left foot if you'd like, and we'll switch sides. Check your mountain pose, think about that broom behind your back. Flex the left hip, squeeze that right glute, externally rotate, plant it anywhere for your tree, zipper that pubic bone up, goalpost your arms. Draw the shoulder blades together a little bit, so it's kind of like our arms are drawing back a little bit, but we don't want to draw back so hard that we pop the ribs or flare the ribs. So hold them in place, zipper everything up. Keep squeezing that right glute. Gazing somewhere in front of you. Release it down. Shake out that right foot. We're going to come back to quadruped, making our way back onto hands and knees. Stretch out your cat-cow. You can move in any direction. Right now, if you're doing regular cat-cow, that's that flexion and extension. Feel free to kind of shimmy side to side, get a little bit of that lateral movement, or maybe that circular type of movement. Anything that feels good. Coming onto your back, we'll start with the feet on the mat, knees bent. Coming into a figure four stretch. Check that triple S. Your sacrum is down, your shoulder blades, the back of your skull. We're gonna cross our right foot, flex it, cross it over this left thigh. Check that the sacrum is down. Draw those pelvic points in. We're gonna do that same goalpost shape here. So try to keep the elbows just coming straight out of the shoulders. Chin towards your throat, sacrum stays down, shoulder blades stay down in the back of the skull. If you want to stretch that right hip a little bit more, pick up your left foot to whatever degree feels good. So the more we flex our left hip, meaning how close our left thigh is to the belly, the more of a stretch we're going to get in that right hip. So just go to whatever degree feels good for you today. Release it down, switch sides. Keep your arms in that goalpost shape. Flex your left foot, cross it over the right thigh. Flex your right hip. If it feels good, you can pick it up off the ground, or if that was enough of a stretch for the left hip, stay with that right foot down. Wherever you end up, focus on your breath. And just notice if you feel like you have any more space there in the thoracic spine. More space for bigger breath, bigger inhales. Release it down. Roll to your right side, keeping your knees bent. Our right arm is going to reach out with the palm up, and the left palm will start on top. We're going to slide this left palm across the right arm, across the front of the chest, and open it out any amount to the left. Let the head relax wherever it feels good. Good. Undo the twist. So we're going to do that 2 more times. Left palm on top of the right. Slide the left arm across the body. Open it out without twisting in the low back. So keep that neutral pelvis. 1 more. Left arm comes back on top of the right. Slide it across the body without turning in the low back. Just rotate the thoracic spine. This time we're going to hold here. You can bend that left elbow if that feels better. And we're going to take our right fingertips, or even right knuckles if you like a little bit more pressure, and just do a little bit of release here, a little self-massage along that left shoulder, left side of the chest. You can close your eyes. And again, just try to deepen your breath. Undo the twist, roll through center, and we'll head to the left side. Starting the same way, we'll keep that long spine, bend the knees in toward the chest as much as you need. Draw those pelvic points in. Left arm will have the palm up, right palm starts on top. Without twisting in your low back, slide this right arm across the body, open it out any amount. Undo the twist, right palm comes back over the left. Slide it across the body, just rotate the thoracic spine. 1 more time, right palm comes on top of the left. Slide it across the body, reaching that right arm out. Good, bend at the elbow. Let's do a little bit of that self-massage here, or self-release of the tissues. You can use your knuckles if you want a little bit more pressure, or just lightly walk your fingers around the front of the right shoulder, right side of the chest. Noticing any areas that feel really tight or tender. Undo your twist. Roll onto your back. We're going to come to Shavasana with the hands on our ribs. So you're just going to lie down in whatever position you can keep that triple S down. So back of the skull, shoulder blades, sacrum. Legs can extend out if that feels good, or you can keep the knees bent. And just rest your hands on your ribs. Close your eyes. And we'll take some of those deep 360 breaths as you inhale. Really feel the ribs expand side to side. Take a full exhale, letting it all the way out. On your next inhale, focus on the ribs expanding front to back. fully exhale. So as we inhale, we really want to feel this full expansion in the ribs, front, side, and back. Emptying the exhale all the way out. Stay here as long as you'd like, allowing yourself to relax, to find some quiet and stillness in the mind and body.